So, when I was laying in bed last night, right, with the fact that we have literally the draft tomorrow, I was thinking to myself, like, what if Tyler Boyd caught that touchdown pass? You know? In that Texans game. I know that was all the way from week 10, but I thought to myself, because, the job I was thinking about last season and this upcoming season and everything, that happened, and obviously the Chiefs won in the end. But what happens if he caught that touchdown pass and we beat the Texans in week 10? Well, if he would have caught that touchdown pass, the Texans would have been knocked out of the playoffs in the end. The Jags would have made the playoffs at number 4. We would have been number 8 seed, and we would have missed the playoffs at 10-7, which, yeah, definitely sucks. But we would have still been at the 18th overall draft pick. Nothing would have changed in our draft pick wise. We would have still been the 18th overall draft pick. The only thing that him catching that touchdown would have changed in history is Jacksonville would have made the playoffs last year, and the Houston Texans would not have made the playoffs. They would have went 9-8, and they would have been, again, you gotta think at the end of the day, what's his name? CJ Stroud would still be considered Rookie of the Year and one of the best players, but he wouldn't have a playoff win right now. If Tyler Boyd would have caught that pass, everything would have been different. We could go to the wild card round. Instead of it being Texans versus Jacksonville, Texans versus Browns, it would have been Jacksonville versus the Browns. Maybe, again, Jacksonville wins that. Instead of... Actually, the rest of these games were exactly the same, to be honest. So, it would have still been Chiefs win, Bills win, Bucks win, Lions win, and Packers win. And the rest of the stuff would have been exactly the same in the end. The only difference is Jacksonville would have been in. And then it still would have been Ravens-Jacksonville for the divisional round. Which, can you imagine Jacksonville beats Baltimore? And then our championship games are this. It would have been Jacksonville versus KC. Well, hold up. Jacksonville versus KC and Lions versus 49ers. And we might have found ourselves in a Jacksonville versus 49ers Super Bowl. Probably not at the end of the day. Probably would not have happened. But I don't know why. I just thought about this last night. And I'm thinking to myself like, this could have been a thing, man. This could have been a thing. It wouldn't have changed us at all. We would have been in the same exact situation as before. Nothing would have been different. It would have been cool for us. It would have been cool for us in the end. But I just find it hilarious the fact that, yeah, we could have knocked the Texans out of the playoffs in the end. Again, everything is 2020 here when you really look at it. It's because week 18, they beat the Colts. Okay, well, actually, how did they end the season off? They beat the Colts. They beat the Titans. They beat the Titans again there. Where are the Texans? Oh, they lost to the Browns. So if they would have beat the Browns, then they would have been in the playoffs as the division champion. But even then, I mean, that game was still a tough game. Cleveland was a tough team no matter what. They lost to the Jets. That would have, again, a win against the Jets would have put them in the playoffs as well. So again, at the end of the day, you can look back and say, well, this, and this. But it's still funny. It's still funny to me that, if they still lost to the Jets and lost to the Browns, and obviously they would also have to lose to the Jags here, they would have not been in the playoffs because of Tyler Boyd catching that ball. Tyler Boyd would have changed history. We would have still been the 18th overall pick. Again, like I said, at the end of the day, we would not have lost anything. The only difference is we would have been even more in pain for the fact that we missed the playoffs when we could have made the playoffs, but obviously the Steelers beat the Seahawks. But it's just funny that, with all that being said, one catch can completely change a season. Which, TB, wherever you end up, man, I wish you the best. It's very possible, though, that Tyler Boyd ends up back with our team. So, it's a little side note there. It's very possible we end up getting him back, but we'll have to wait and see how everything ends up turning out. So, guys, tell me down below your thoughts and opinions. I know this is a random video, very random video, but you know, why not? The draft's tomorrow. Let's start up with random content for a second.